Hello everybody. So we are moving to the next session, perceptual organization. The perceptual organization in psychology denotes that or it says that when we are going to observe a situation or when we are seeing something, we tend to group things in different either one or two category or three or four category rather than we are just observing it as a separate or complex items. So we humans have a tendency to group items in separate groups, and the question is how we group the items. So the answer is simply through the perceptual organization, and how people tend to organize things is described in the law of perceptual organization. So we are going to look some perceptual organization laws or some types of perceptual organization. So the first one is figure ground segregation. Figure ground segregation is simply that when we see a object, simply possibly a white and black object, we thought that the black or either white is in the background section or sometimes it is in the figure section. So take an example of the Rubin vase. In this picture you can see a Rubin vase. In the Rubin vase we have see that some people may see that a white background and there is a black vase like structure, and some people say that black as a background and the figure is white. This is called the figure ground segregation. The next session is the law of smallness. The law of smallness is simply that when we see a object, in that the smaller object will be perceived as a figure. We take an example of a picture. We take that picture and we have a small object in that picture. We will take that picture as the figure and the rest of the things as background. That means we tend to take the smaller object as a figure and the rest of the thing as background. This is called the law of smallness. The next law is the law of symmetry. The law of symmetry says that when we have a image of a symmetrical shape, we tend to perceive it as a figure. Otherwise, we may not perceive as a figure. Suppose when we take an example of this picture, we can see that here the image is or the figure is shown as in a symmetrical form. That means the figure we can say we can easily classify it into the figure shape. The next law is the law of pragnance or the law of good figure. In that we simply that take an example of this image, then we can see that we have a tendency to perceive it as a good figure. This is an Olympic logo. We perceive it as an Olympic logo. Rather, we are not see or perceive this thing as a 5 circle. We perceive it as a Olympic logo. This is called the law of pragnance or law of good figure. Next, simply the law of proximity. The law of proximity says that when we are observing a thing, the proximal, that means the nearest things can be grouped into one single and the rest of the things to other group. Suppose when we take an example of a college, we perceive some students gathering together as a group and the other students gathering on the other side perceived as a second group. That means we perceived on the basis of the closeness of the object. That is the law of proximity. And next, take example of this image. In this image we have a complex image actually, but we perceive it as a simple continuity image. Like that we perceive as a continuous form. We always try to perceive the images in a continuous form because humans have a tendency to perceive that things in a continuous pattern or continuous form. So this is called simply the law of continuation. Next, the law of closure. Take example of this image. This is not actually a complete image. This is a image that gives some shapes, or this is an image with have some piece of papers in that, or we can say it is a piece of images. But we perceive it as a good complete image. We can see some object in that like cat. We can see a cat in that image. So that means we actually perceive it as a image, but when in the term of image, it is not a cat. It is just a some shapes gathered together. So we have a tendency to complete a figure, or we have a tendency to close that image. That means this is the law of closure. And finally, we have the law of common region. Common region, as in the term, we perceive the things from a common region as a single group and the other region as a other group. Suppose take this image. This is an image of our college. When some people are stand in front of the veranda, we perceive they are in a particular group, and some students stand in the ground, we perceive they are in the other group. So here we group the people or group the students as a category of the common region. So these are the basic laws of perceptual organization. This is how we perceive the world into 2 or 3 groups, or we have a tendency to perceive the object in a groups. So this is all the topic, and we will discuss more about the topic in the next session. Thank you.